What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Commercial Kitchen Chronicles. I'm your host, Pat Finley. I'm a lead master certified technician at General Parts Group, and I'm a Sofesto certified trainer. Our goal is to shine a light on what we believe to be one of the most interesting and rewarding industries a field service technician can work in. We love the work we do, and we are glad you're here listening to this podcast. In this episode, Dusty's back, and we catch up on what's new. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Commercial Kitchen Chronicles. We have a familiar face here tonight, and we're going to hear all about what he's been up to. But first, this episode is sponsored by Viper HVAC products. Did you know that Viper's NSF registered coil cleaners are a must-have for kitchen maintenance? No rinsing required. Plus, Viper's HVAC products were created by technicians for technicians, ensuring top-notch quality. Viper believes in performance without hazardous ingredients. So, welcome back, Dusty, man. What's up, dude?
Good to be back, man. Good to be back. It's been a few months, I think.
It's been a while, yeah. Occasionally you pop in from time to time.
Yeah.
You know, it's good to see you. I know you've been busy. You went through a little bit of a career change here lately, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But what's new, man? Anything?
Pretty much that. I mean, family's growing. We're doing that thing. Working hard on the family. A lot of, once you have 3 kids to it, and then, the extended family and all that stuff, it just makes stuff real busy, but real fun. My youngest son, he's 5. He just started school, first year. So he's getting huge. The other kids are getting huge. And then just trying to date night and hang out with my wife when we get a chance to be free and to ourselves. But other than that, I mean, just been busy with work. It's been a crazy summer.
Yeah, especially making its transition into racks. But that just adds into it.
I picked like the craziest time too. It was I think it was, when did I switch there? April. So it was mid-April. So it was right before the swell of the summer. And I remember when I came on, they were growing. And they were like, we got 87 work orders. I was like, oh my God. So it's been a change. So that I dove headfirst into it, honestly. No downtime.
Wow, that's wild. So let's give everybody, for new listeners, anybody hasn't seen you before, forgets, let's give everybody a rundown on like how you got involved in the trades, where you started, and like where you've been the last few years, and what led up to your decision to jump into racks, if you don't mind.
Yep. I started in 2015 in the fall doing residential HVAC installs. Moved from install to service in I think late 2016, early 2017. And that was kind of a lull in the industry where a lot of the service techs were a little older and they were retiring. There wasn't a whole lot of young faces. So I jumped on an opportunity to pretty much go get my teeth kicked in. Just, people were strapped, needed help, and I said, I'll try it. And then I went from there, did residential for a while, switched to commercial HVAC, and then eventually got into refrigeration. And then I was at a company who, I guess they were kind of new to doing hot side work.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had a ton of clientele that we did HVAC for, and they needed help with the hot side. So I took that on, ended up liking that a whole lot, and, did that for say 2 or 3 years, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So there, and went from there, did that for a while, enjoyed it. I don't have anything bad to say about it. I like it. Then I had an opportunity to do supermarkets, which is, it was just a box that I wanted to, I guess, check off and just kind of eventually get to that point. Because, I used to listen to the Advanced Refrigeration podcast. Shout out to those dudes. I used to listen to that all the time, and I would have no idea what the hell they were talking about. I was like, I have no clue, but they make it sound cool.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I listen to this stuff and I'm like, I'm lost, but I'm like, I'm learning stuff. I'm like, but I have no idea. If I was to look at it, I'd be like, I don't know what this is.
Exactly. It's all, and I found that too. Like it's same components, different scale. It's kind of like switching from HVAC to hot side or hot side to HVAC. It's essentially all the same. You're doing the same thing. You're just on a bigger scale. But it's, so I'm doing that currently. Do a lot of supermarkets, big blue stores, and then it's time consuming, and it's a lot of walking, a lot of up and down, a lot of outside, a lot of up on 18-foot tall evaporators. So it's a huge scale, but it's pretty fun work.
That's cool. That's cool. I've always been interested in it. To the point I'm at, I don't really want to start over. So I kind
Yeah,
of like, go what I do, what I do. Who
yeah,
knows what may happen in the future. I'd love to check it out though. It's always super interesting. Um, I follow a lot of people on Instagram and LinkedIn to do rack stuff, and
hmm
uh, there's a lady on there. She does a bang up job, man, and she was asking me about a rotisserie one day, and I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to work on racks." It's like, "Well, I'd just be lost and starting over." She's the little stuff's harder than this big stuff."
yeah, yeah, yeah. I have found that too. I mean, it's crazy. Like you can work on you know a huge rack system, with the EPRs and all that stuff. All the bells and whistles, like subcoolers, and there's a whole lot of components to it. But I feel like on a bigger scale, it simplifies it more than say, a combi oven.
Mhm.
Something that's a whole lot smaller but way more intricate. So I've noticed that too, and you have a lot more room to work on, racks than hot side. I'll tell you that.
Just wait till this winter when it's 0 degrees and everything's kicking out on low pressure.
Yeah,
You'll be
yeah.
like, "Why am I doing this again?"
It'll be a different story. I have heard that too. You get almost busier in the wintertime than you do in the summertime.
Yeah, especially the colder it gets, the worse it gets. I've heard horror stories, on Brett's podcast, Brett and Kevin talking about, him up in Chicago and getting, lake effect snow and, wind like -20, -25 wind chills and like nothing runs. They're shutting off fans and everything and just hoping to build enough pressure to run. I'm like, that is insane.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's a little bit you can do with high head, but very minimal you can do with low head. I mean, same with walk-ins and stuff like that. It's just
You got to
you
have that pressure drop. If you don't have that pressure drop, you're just screwed.
you are. So it's that is I haven't been there yet with racks. What I did when I was doing refrigeration, I dealt with that quite a bit. So I'm hoping it's the same, but we'll just have to see. It's another episode.
Hmm. So is it true that like you're just busier? I mean, everyone always says, rat guys are busy. Like it's a different type of busy doing racks. So is that really true or is it just company dependent probably?
What do you mean as far as like just the workload?
Yeah, like the hours, like it's just nonstop. It's stupid.
It's I mean it just depends. Like I've had I think like 68-hour weeks, and I've also had 39, 40-hour weeks. So it really just is an ebb and flow. I guess it's kind of like any other trade. I've been just as busy with hot side too, but I think the difference is it would be, I would say, company based and customer based. So like you have locations that will, I mean, I'm not going to say any names of stores, but any rat guys know exactly what I'm talking about. They'll trigger an alarm and just generate a work order, and then just come straight to you without further like investigation on it. So you get a lot of those. So I think that accounts for a lot of the workload and how busy you get, just because a lot of it's not screened. And you'll show up and something's down to 10. Or it'll be a sensor issue, or and that, and on top of it, what makes it so crazy is you're driving. I feel like drive time is a good 40% of my day. That gives you a whole lot of hours in there too. So it's a whole lot of variables, but really just the same. I mean, honestly.
Sweet, sweet. That's cool. Yeah, I figured it was probably, depending on company and clientele, stuff like that. I could see, everything being automated, triggering calls nonstop for just stupid stuff.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah,
Like,
100%.
oh, we got 30-minute defrost and it went 30 minutes and 3 seconds. Better call somebody.
Exactly. And there's a lot of that too. And you're also, every single rack system's tied into the building automation. So
Mhm.
you have building controls that's tied into that. So you could have an issue there, but it's creating a false issue here. And whereas like kitchen stuff or a good amount of HVAC stuff, it's screened. People will call in the morning, or they'll call in and put it in the morning. Sometimes I mean I've had to drive 3 hours one way and then 3 hours back for a call on an alarm for it was a box that was over temp, and it was 5 degrees over temp for, I can't remember the amount of time before it triggers it, but by the time you get there it's down to temp. So it's like, you're 7 hours into a call. It's for nothing. So
That's absolutely insane. I can only imagine.
yeah, so there's a lot of stuff like that, and also like thawing out like frozen food doors. So if you're in a supermarket, you got 5 glass doors. There's an evaporator that takes up that whole thing. you got to imagine thawing that out takes a whole lot longer than thawing out like a walk-in evaporator, because you got to pull all product, and that's a lot of your time is waiting on product to get pulled.
Yeah, and you can't just run a hose clear across a grocery store. You're like, I've heard stories like guys taking like 55-gallon trash cans on wheels and like filling them with hot water
Yeah,
and taking them out there and then using a pump to pump it in there, and then hopefully your drain's cool on your floor. If not, then what are you
and
gonna do?
it's always clogged.
It's always clogged, so you're always making a mess. So
Yeah,
you better carry a snake around with you or something to unclog it with.
yeah. That's usually a lot of them freeze up because of clogged drain. Like frozen food doors and freezers. It's a lot of it's clogged drain, and then you find that out when you're trying to thaw it, and water dumps all into the floor, and you got to clean that up. So it's another job within a job. So it is a lot of stuff like that. So I guess that does account for a lot of the hours.
Yeah, that's wild to think about. I think it'd be cool to do, but it'd probably be a pain in the butt in the long run.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's pretty hard on your body too. You do a lot of walking. That's the thing, because if you go from where your cases are to where the rack is, sometimes on the roof, sometimes off to the side, just depends. You got to do a lot of walking back and forth. So that kind of that's pretty rough. Whereas like I'm used to a restaurant. You're in the back door, you're in the kitchen, you're out the back to your van. You're right there, boom, boom. So it's a difference, honestly.
Yeah, I always see all the different controls and people like scrolling through those, and like everything it tells you and the things you can do is pretty wild. But that's a pretty big learning curve, is trying to figure out all those different controls.
Yeah, and a lot of those controllers will tell you a good amount of what you need to know, and you can pull up history and things like that. It's not, I don't want to say self-explanatory, but it's not as complicated as it seems, I guess you could say. Once you learn the controller, that's a variable too. So
Yeah, I always see them in the back of like grocery stores and stuff I'm working in. I'm like, I want to go like start pushing buttons and see what I get. I was like, I better not do that.
and as long as you don't put in the password, you can usually mess around with it if you want.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, so is it everything you thought it was gonna be, or are you still just trying to learn the ropes?
Mainly just still trying to learn the ropes. I'm still, like I said, it's only been a few months. So I'm still pretty green in the racks itself.
Yeah.
So I mean, I try to learn as much as I can, but there's every time you think you have a confident handle on it, something else hits you, and you're like, oh dear God, like what is this? Yeah.
It still happens to me every day, and I've been doing this 18 plus years, so I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, man.
That's the industry, that's any industry. You think you got, you really don't.
Well, and everything's changing so fast. Technology, refrigerant, uh, you know, parts, everything's just changing so fast. It's wild to think, where we've gone in 18 years that I've been here. And imagine you guys have been here 30 years, the things they've seen in 30 years. So who knows what's next?
That's everything, every industry. I mean, even I think the new residential refrigerant is that, was it isobutane components? Well, I can't remember the name of it. It's like
For residential appliances is R600, so it's butane.
Okay.
The new refrigerants, I think, it's like 32, I think, or 450. No, 32 and something. But they're both A2 or A2L.
Okay.
Um, uh, very minuscule chance it catches fire, but they get everybody freaking out about that and worried about that. But
that's what's crazy. People have a gas furnace in their house.
well, they have people. How many people have a propane grill they push in the garage once they get done cooking?
Yeah, and
don't unhook the tank; just leave it hooked up. I mean, that's more dangerous than anything that's going to be in your AC system. I mean,
exactly, and that's a huge thing too. Like, there's on the I guess the new. I know I've just read about a lot about the residential units. They actually have like low pressure controls and built-in leak detectors and all this stuff that they're eventually going to get to and putting in those systems. And so you have more safeties on that than you do on like a gas oven that's in your kitchen that you never even thought, that the fact that it's got gas on it. And if you smell it, you're lucky. But if not, there's no other way of knowing.
I mean, it's only been like the last 15 years where everything's went to a automatic ignition. I mean,
yeah,
you're having a kid to have a standing pilot on my stove or oven,
Yeah, exactly.
You turned your oven on, you smell gas, like, oh, I better open the windows and let this thing air out for a minute and light that pilot. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm just, I'm a firm believer in remove all warning labels, let natural selection run its course. Honestly,
It's kind of the same thing. It's like, if you dealt with that, like you said, when I was a kid, that's what we had too. We didn't have electric ignition. So it's like if you turned it past, you're just dumping gas. And then so many times it's like if you smell gas, you're like, oh, it must have a leak somewhere. And then you just shut everything off. Like it's just, it's not that bad. I've heard. It's a lot more diluted than that. So
yeah, I think a lot of tooling companies are making money, pushing the scare tactics on, get everybody buy new tools and stuff. I think that's
yeah,
just my thoughts. It's not the thoughts of any sponsors or anybody of the show. Just my thoughts personally.
yeah. No, and you'll have that with everything. I mean, just there's always a scare tactic, a push, a reason to exist for certain manufacturers. So I get it, but I mean, you should proceed with caution. Everyone watching this, don't take our word for it.
Well, I like it like over in Europe. I guess they have like their HVAC systems are propane R290,
Yeah,
and it's like everything's outside, and it's like a chill loop or a heated loop going in the house. So
mm-hmm.
it's like an outdoor heat pump or whatever chiller or some sort of heater that heats the fluid and pushes it in. So there's no actual refrigerant coming into the house, just a liquid. I mean, so I mean, I don't know. I don't get it. Like I said, dude, there's more gas in your propane grill or your lawnmower. I mean, you don't think about pushing your lawnmower in. If
Exactly.
a gallon or 5 gallon gas count there, your car is I mean, it is what it is. I mean, people just freak out over nothing, I think.
Once it's in the market and it's had its chance to be placed in more homes and be utilized by more people, that fear will kind of go away, and then there'll be a new fear of something else.
Yeah, give it 5-10 years and it'll be a new refrigerator. It's even more flexible.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what kind of refrigerant are you working with mostly?
Um, you'll see some R22. Most of the stuff's R448. That's the majority of what I've worked on, at least what I've seen. We do have a one CO2 store close to us, and we're about to pick up another one. Which the CO2 stuff, I haven't worked on it. We got a guy that works with us who's been in the business for almost 30 years, and he's done the training for it, and he's familiar with it. I have, added CO2 to a rack, leak checked, and all that stuff, and it's a whole different ball game the way it works. I still don't understand it. It goes right over my head. I don't. I've asked the guy I work with multiple times, like, tell me again how this works, and he'll tell me, and I'm just like, I don't know. It's very hard. It's different, and you got like transcritical, secondary,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
so many different things of it. So it's like I even went to a Husband CO2 training class, and like I was just it's crazy how that works. It really is a different process, but once you get comfortable with it, I'm sure it's not that bad. It's just outside looking in, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I know Brett's putting together some trainings with CO2 entry level stuff, and I'd be interested to see what he's got and checking it out, maybe even taking the course.
Yeah,
It'd be pretty cool. That kind of stuff always blows my mind. I'm like, this is wild, and
it
uh,
isn't. It's I guess it's better, less ozone depleting. I guess.
it's zero. I think, yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
much zero.
yeah. That's carbon dioxide, correct? I think so.
CO2. Yeah, it's carbon dioxide. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. It's I think it's mixed reviews now, but they're trying to. That's the marketing, is that it's clean CO2, so
it's
it's
clean. It's
it's clean,
clean.
it's filtered. But that's a crazy. If that's anything I've learned thus far, that I can't. I guess I could, but it's hard to equate that with something that I already know, because the process truly is different, and there's different variables. But when you're in the store, like you're in a grocery store, you've probably been in a store that had CO2 before, but you can't tell. Nothing's different on the sales floor, and even looking at the rack, it's not totally different. The condenser's different, but once you get into the components of it, it's just absolutely insane.
Pressures are way
Yeah.
different than what we're used to, and
Oh
yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's like you can't like it's, and that's another thing too. Like if you're charging a CO2 rack, you have to get it to. And any rack guys watching this is going to give me a hard time because I'm probably going to get some of this wrong. But I think you have to get it up to 60 pounds, I think. I can't remember when it converts to a liquid. But if it stays a liquid, you'll create dry ice in the system, and so that's a whole other problem. So it scares. It's nervous. It makes you nervous to work on it.
Yeah, I'd love to do it one day. It'd just be just to say I knew how, or even tried it. It'd be cool.
Yeah. Shout out to any CO2 guys. That stuff's awesome. If you can work on it, you're killing it, and you'll have a job for a while.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, are you? Are they currently offering a lot of training for you, or what are you doing? Just kind of doing stuff on your own, or?
Well, I did like I work with a couple guys every now and then to different job, changing compressors.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we did the CO2 training. And mainly a lot of it's just kind of I've learned on my own or working alongside someone else, and you just gotta ask a lot of questions, and nothing's gonna make sense for a while. And still to this, since I've been there in April, I've asked the same question a couple of times just to make sure, because different setups feel different. Like you have like racks and you got protocol racks, so it's like it's the same process, but it looks different, so it feels different. That's the big thing with racks is there's a few different categories, but once you get in that's a curve. But I mean, most of it's just been on the job, really, training.
Sweet. What's the biggest rack you've worked on? I mean, like how many pounds of refrigerant does it hold?
I think it's typically probably almost 500. I think a little above. So it's, and usually like if you got a low receiver alarm, you want to get up to about 30%, which most of the time in like a protocol rack, you're putting in almost 200 pounds of refrigerant.
It's a lot of money, dude, especially if it's a 22 rack.
It is. But the thing is too, you can just kind of dump it in the system. You don't really watch, you watch your receiver level.
You just dump it in the receiver and just, yeah.
You do. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. But that's crazy too. But typically they get pretty big, but that's the biggest that I've personally worked on. And it's pretty wild, but it's you like that, like we were saying earlier with the controls, you can see a lot of that information on your controls, what your discharge pressure is, and then your receiver level. So you can see a lot of it going on outside of just putting gauges on it.
So have you done any control work, like wiring or just any of that kind of stuff yet? Or
not really. Ever in cases, but that's just 2-wire sensors.
Yeah.
They're just little temperature sensors. They're stuff like that. But other than that, not really. I haven't got into the control side of it or changing panels. I have had some issues with like door sensors, like walk sensors, but they're just the standard walk-ins that you see in a lot of coolers. The KE2 door sensors, they just on a bigger scale, and it's just wired directly into the board. And those things get annoying too, because when they go off, it's the alarm for the whole store. So the whole store, you'll hear the beep, and so those get crazy. And I mean, you bypass them temporarily, but once you put them in, and I had one recently where when it was installed, when the whole system was installed, they learned those in backwards. So when the door shut, the fans were off. When the door was open, the fans came on. So, and then someone eventually just unwired the door sensors so the fans would just stay on all the time. So I had to get into the system. It's a master level login past the regular login, and then you have to relearn those sensors into it. So that was kind of a head scratcher. That's probably my head scratcher of the past week or so, just because I didn't know that. And you have to call programmers at Emerson, and sometimes they can batch right into the system, but they couldn't on that one. So I had to do it all over the phone, and the control side of it's pretty intricate.
Cool. So Brian wants to know if you are wearing an Everton jersey.
I am, absolutely. Go tell.
That's funny.
Who is that, Brian?
Brian Sanders.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Everton coffees. That's it.
Nice.
Yesterday and lost miserably, but we're still wearing it, man. My cousin actually just went on vacation to the UK, and he went to Liverpool, and that's where Everton plays. And he picked me up an actual scarf from Liverpool. So I'm pretty stoked on that.
Nice, nice. He says it's football season, not football.
Oh man, not yet. We have football right now.
That's funny. But yeah, that's cool, man. I like to see, I love to see, you taking on new challenges and stuff and, growing. You've come a long ways in, 7 years. I mean, looking back 7 years ago, you wouldn't think, you're doing installs for residential HVAC. You wouldn't think you'd be working on racks and doing all the things you've done. So that's pretty cool to see.
Exactly. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's when I was doing residential installs, I remember I'd be on Instagram or YouTube and you'd see guys working on chillers and racks. And I always thought then, like, that's what I want to do one day. So, like, it was kind of like being able to do it and work on it. And, in the industry, they're pretty starved for technicians. I mean, things are going. Every industry is. Not as bad as probably hot side, but still probably pretty bad.
Dude, it's because we're not known, man. It's just they don't show us off. They don't get it out there. It's just like we're we're a dirty little secret, kept in the dark. And
Exactly.
I don't know. It's wild. I'm trying, but we'll get there eventually.
It's that's the thing too. Like you said, they're just not front foremost, and most you hear about it. If anyone brings it up, it's like, oh, what's nasty and dirty? Like, well, everything is, man.
Dude, I could show so many things. I have so much recorded pictures and stuff, and I'm like, I can't do this because it's just absolutely going to disgust people. And people are like, "Where's that at?" I'm like, I can't tell you.
I'm not allowed to tell you,
but the thing is, like, the restaurant that I'm at sees it, they're gonna know, like, hey, that's one of our stores, and it's like, I gotta watch what I do, man. Like, I got a lot of people watching me and people around me, and it's just I can probably get into trouble with stuff. Like the one I posted today, the drains, like, if rationale, where I was at. I mean, it's pretty easy to see. It's just, it is what it is. Just, I don't know. I gotta be careful. I'm not trying to make anybody mad. I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers or cause any issues.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember I used to very rarely post something because, one time I was going to post a reel and it had the actual like the code tag on it. And, if anyone sees that, they can see exactly what it is, where it's at. So it's like, you gotta, even with anything, and it's easy for HVAC because all that stuff looks the same and you can't see the actual store. But hot side stuff, it's kind of hard to do.
Yeah, I seen someone post a video and it had one of my company's barcodes on there, and I went and looked it up and seen where they were at. And I was like, "You're here, working on this," and they're like, "What the heck? How?" I'm like, "It's my barcode on there."
You did that for me that one day when I was working on that Blodgett.
Yeah, you could figure out like the model and serial number. I was like, and you're like, "It's got this little tag." I was like, "It's one of mine, dude. Send it to me." And I told you what it was.
I can't remember the name of that restaurant. You're like, "Is it here?" I was like, "Holy crap, dude! That's exactly it." You're like, "You need this motor."
Yeah. So Brian recently converted over to being a cooking guy. So he's doing HVAC, refrigeration, and cooking for another company. And he said his hands are getting soft from all the grease. Yeah, your tools don't rust, man. That's the only good thing. Your tools don't rust.
I do miss that. I do miss, like, the other day I used a pair of pliers and they were a little dry to open. I was like, man, if they had chicken grease on them, these things would be brand new.
Yeah, let me dip this in your fryer.
But the rubber handles on all my tools would wear off in a couple months. And
yeah,
boots too. Boots are.
Yeah, people are like, oh, it's chemical. Like, it has nothing to do with chemical, dude. It's like grease. I'm like, you guys are eating this shit. Like when they went to that trans fat free oil, that was the end of like it. Just the stuff they're cooking in now just destroys everything.
Yeah.
There's no way you can tell me that's better for you than animal fat.
No. What's that? The beef tallow?
Beef tallow. Yep. There's 3 restaurants, 3 chains I know use it. One's Buffalo Wild Wings.
Mm-hmm.
I actually did some place in this little like. It was like a one-off like restaurant. Like this guy actually went to the butcher shop and like took all their beef fat and like rendered his own tallow and like cooked all his food in it. He fried all his food in it. And it was like the best food I had in forever. I was like, this is amazing.
This is how you fry food.
This is how you fry a potato. People take less.
Beef tallow. Yeah, I didn't know. I don't know. Some locations will use that peanut oil, or no, was it soybean oil?
Yeah. So Chick-fil-A uses two different oils. They use peanut oil and they use canola oil. Depends on like one's for their fries and one's for their chicken. I forget which
Mhm.
one it is. It's one or the other. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so do you miss hot side or are you like, no, I'm done with it?
I actually do. I mean, I enjoyed it. I would say probably out of my full stint in the career, I probably enjoyed that the most. Um, but it's like I was in a Walmart the other day and I walked past it and I saw some Giles fryers and I was like, man, that lift isn't working. Like we can hold it right.
No, it's covered in grease and it's locked up. It won't turn. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's still one of the craziest. That's when you get in the thick of it. It's pump motors and those lifts. But I mean, I do. I mean, I enjoyed like the camaraderie with manufacturers and the industry itself is really cool. I think,
Yeah.
and like and then working on the equipment itself. I feel like you could do a lot more in a day than you could with any other scale. Like you could touch more equipment in a day and
Yeah,
get to stuff.
definitely a greater variety, but it's also it's a lot more like it's a lot faster paced too, I think. I mean, you can get stuck on a rack and just be stuck there all day doing nothing.
Exactly.
But you can burn out 4 or 5 hot side calls a day easy. Like and
Sure.
and see and work on 4 or 5 different things, 4 or 5 different, issues and stuff. So
And that's the thing too with hot side too. Like I mean, I saw more urgency with a single fryer than I have with an entire rack being down. Like it's insane how that works. Like
you're like, hey, we got this Costco, we got $400,000 worth of product in this freezer. I'll get there when I get there. You got one lousy fryer out of a bank of 6. We can't open the store.
exactly. It really is. I don't know if that's because it's front and center or like a disruption of their schedule, but I still haven't. Hot side urgency is real, but that's the thing too. You were able to do more because you know you had to you had to get it done. You had to do it, next day, 2 days, that day, as opposed to waiting it out for a week or so. So that's I do miss that. Like, and I feel like that's another thing too. I was saying is you can start off working on an espresso machine and the day working on a flat top griddle or vice versa. You could touch more different pieces of equipment. For somebody whose mind races like mine does, that was always a great thing.
Yeah, that's why I've kind of like I love what I do, and I really haven't made a jump to something else. It's just because the variety and the things I get to do. Like right now, I'm kind of in a rut, working on the same thing over and over and over, just because that's my need right now. We were trying to fill in some positions to get some guys trained, and it happens every year about this time. I just get sick of it. I'm just like I don't want to do this no more. I want to do something else, and then I'll get over it in a couple weeks and be back to normal.
Post, I think I saw it today.
Yeah.
Like, give him 2 weeks, he'll be all right.
Yeah, I'll be back to normal in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We'll be back to normally scheduled broadcast.
There you go. And it's normal for life in general, this industry. Doesn't matter what you do. I mean, burnout's a real thing, especially if you're in a rut and you feel like you're doing the same thing over and over. And but I mean, I could see different industries having more of a burnout than others.
Mhm.
But it's also dependent on what you got. And I know you work like a crazy person, so that probably has, you know.
I kind of go in spurts. Like right now, I've got it pretty well figured out. Last year, so I've gotten a lot better than I have before. Um, so I think I'm starting to get it figured out. I'm not gonna say I have it figured out, but I think it's getting better.
Yeah, yeah. You'll never have to figure it out, I don't think. That's what they say.
No, as soon as you do, it's just something else will come along and ruin it for you.
But it's I think that's why I love the trades. I couldn't stand doing something same thing every day, nonstop. In a desk. I mean, nothing wrong with that. It's some people thrive in that, but it would just burn me out. So it's like if we're getting burned out doing what we're doing, we would for sure be burned out doing anything else.
Yeah, I came out of high school a little bit and did some factory work for like 3 months, and I was like, I can't do this. Before I
Yep.
started in the union, I was like 3 months of that, and I was like, oh, kill me now. I can't do this. It's like how people do the same thing over. I mean, like you hear the story about like the lady that turns this one thing for 60 some years in a factory. I'm like, how or why would you want to do that?
It- It's just I don't know. People like I guess the mechanics of a schedule.
Certainty. I mean, I guess, the same thing over and over. They know what they're getting into. It's not a challenge. I don't know. I like a challenge, so we'll just see.
I do too, and it's I worked at LG&E right out of high school, which is just a power plant. It's a big coal mill power plant. I
Mhm.
did that. It was really dirty, but I did the same. I literally all I did was loosen bolts on these mills. That's all I did all day. It was just like with an impact, I would just take out 20 bolts. They take the door off with the little crane, and then I would stand there for hours, and then I would put the bolts back in. That's all I did for about I think 3 or 4 months.
Oh boy.
I did it for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Holy smokes.
I was like, man, I can't. I need something. And it's dark in there. There's no lights. It's you can't see anything. But I couldn't imagine. But there were guys there who'd been doing similar things for 35 years. Like, man, how do you do this?
Not for me, dude. Not for me. Phew, I'd last about a day. I'd lose my mind.
I need to be out doing different things.
That's for sure. That's for sure. So, is there any takeaway you think, of your journey of the last 7 years? Anything you think, you could give information to somebody? Like, what would you say if, they have a dream or a goal, something what they want to do? What would you say to do that?
I guess just never forget it and stay with it. I mean, I know that sounds cheesy and cliche, but be obsessed. Don't be worried about being obsessed. It's I think that's the number one key to success and having a drive is just an obsession and constantly every day just telling yourself it's going to happen and you got to make it happen and you don't have a choice. And I've always programmed my brain to think if I don't get something done that I want to get done, I'm letting myself down. So I don't want to let myself down. I don't want to be upset with myself. So you just got to keep on going until you can get to that point. And that's kind of been my thing with the industry and even doing racks. I feel like I told myself from the beginning I was going to do it. An opportunity came along, so I had to stay true, commit to the promise because it's not always easy. It's hard often, but I'd say just stay focused. Don't forget, be obsessed with something, and it's hard to teach that though. You can say it all day long, but you're either born with that or you're not. Because I could say be obsessed. But if you're really truly not in it, then there's nothing, no one can push you along the way. But
Yeah. Yeah, I get that 100%, man. I'm the same way, dude. I dive headfirst into anything I do.
no,
Become obsessed with it. Even my work, like I'm always trying to better myself, be a better technician, be a better mentor, a trainee, a trainer, a teacher. Anything I do, I want to be better at it. It's just, um, don't pass up those opportunities though if you get one.
exactly. That's 100% what it is. And that's my next goal. I would like to be a trainer somewhere. So that's because I enjoy teaching people, and that's a lot of with hot side stuff.
Mhm.
Now I'm being taught a lot of it. Whereas like with hot side stuff, I was teaching new guys they were hiring. I would pretty much just teach them what you taught me. I would just pass it along. But it was, I trained, a lot of people who never worked on it before, just mainly explaining equipment, how it works and how it's set up.
Mhm.
But I'd like to follow that to the future, get to that point where I could actually be a trainer.
Yeah, that'd be it's fun, man. I like taking new techs, and then I do this FESA thing, and I definitely want to be involved in some other stuff here soon. But it's always fun to see guys that, or even just one person, like they see something and they're confused, and by the time the week's over, the day's over, you see they have that aha moment, it clicks, and it's like, yes, this is cool. If I can make a difference in one person's life or career, I'd be happy.
Which is huge. I mean, that's a big thing too, is that, like you said, that aha moment. It's kind of like where everything kind of clicks. Are you still doing Cepesa?
Yep, I'll be back down. I go down Halloween night that Thursday. I'm gonna drive down, and then I've got stuff to do Thursday, Friday. I mean Friday, Saturday, and then I will teach Monday through Friday and come back. So I'm excited for that. It's my first time back in a few years. Um,
It's gonna be refrigeration, right?
yep, refrigeration. I'm excited for that, and then there may be some other stuff in the future outside Festa. I'm not sure when that's going to be, and but I'm looking forward to it. It's cool. I haven't been down there, and it's been 2 years. I mean, I went. It's probably been a year and a half, actually. Yeah, it was a year and a half. I had family emergency, had to come back, so I couldn't teach. And then there's another instructor that lives local down there, works for I believe day and night, and he's been doing some of the other classes. So we split it up between two of us. So that way, they're not taking me out from General Parts, and then taking him out from his company 2 or 3 times a year. Because actually, they did refrigeration 3 times this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's been a pretty big demand for it. So
Yeah. I'd like to get back down there. I haven't been there since 22, maybe 2022. That's when I went down there to South Carolina. But it's nice. That facility is pretty cool.
yep, they got that big barn, and they got some new stuff. I think they were getting a walk-in. I think they're going to get a walk-in, some other stuff. So um, I know they were getting some more tools. They're getting, I think they're doing pressing now up to 2 inch, so they can show that off as far as install and stuff goes. I take down my RLS gun, and we do RLS pressing on refrigeration lines. It's really cool though. It's a fun time. I'll have anywhere from 12 to 15 students in 5 days of just trying to keep them engaged and entertained. It's harder than you think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a different. I guess that's a whole other skill set as teaching.
Yeah, it I'm not gonna say I'm good at it. I'm getting better at it, but it just takes time and practice, and I don't do it every week. I think if you did it every week, it'd be a different story, but we'll get there eventually.
Yeah. Maybe you'll be the full refrigeration guy down there.
I don't know if I'll ever do that, but we'll see.
Is that what Dan Reese does down there? Is that his full-time gig or?
He's director of training, but he trains all the time, so he teaches everything besides refrigeration, and then he helps with some of the other stuff they bring in. Like they'll do the combi class, the machine class, and he helps facilitate that. The fryer class, and it's just he's just a full-time trainer, but he does a lot of stuff, designs a lot of training, and then he travels and does all the shows where they go and get the word out about Cefesa and what they do for the industry, and what they do, the training opportunities, stuff like that. And then they're involved with Skills USA as well too, so that's pretty cool.
Oh. Neat.
So all right, man, I am not going to take any more of your time. I appreciate you coming on. Don't be a stranger, dude. You're welcome anytime you want. But I'm glad to hear from you and talk about your recent change and chasing that dream and chasing some knowledge and some other things, man.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it. Like I said, I wanted to come on. I've been meaning to, but finally got a chill Tuesday, so I'll go ahead and jump on.
No, I said Wednesday. You're like, can we do Tuesday? And I was like, yeah, we'll do Tuesday.
Well, I'll have a late. I knew I would have a late night tomorrow. We got to do some work out of town, and I was like, okay, sounds good. And then I literally got a phone call right after. I was like, I'm gonna hate.
It's all right. We used to do Thursdays, and then and that's when we started. It was Thursday nights actually, and then Jason wanted to watch football, so when we changed it to Wednesdays.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, because I think 8:00 was early. That's like when you and I were doing it. We're doing it at 8
on Thursdays. Yep, and then we changed it to Wednesdays for Jason, so he can watch his football. So
that's coming. Football's coming soon.
Yep. All right, buddy. Well, I'm proud of you, and I want to thank you for coming on and talking about what's going on with your life and your career, and hope the family and kids are doing well, and the wife's doing well as well.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it.
Yep. See you.
We appreciate you staying to the end. If you'd like to be a guest, or you know someone that would make a good guest for the Commercial Kitchen Chronicles podcast, let us know. We love to hear how everyone got to the skilled trades and the commercial kitchen industry. So if you want to be a guest, or you know somebody, hit us up. Thanks, guys.